Vindicating Trump is the latest film from our favorite director, Dinesh D'Souza. It stars Dinesh D'Souza, Alina Habba, Siaka Massaquoi, Nick Searcy, Lara Trump, and the man himself, President Donald Trump, as Dinesh explores the various assassination attempts against this man. Character, political, legal, and a couple of actual assassination attempts. This film is full of humor, a lot of sketch comedy that you will definitely enjoy, but it's got a serious message about voter integrity, and we encourage you all to see it. And I can't wait to talk about it in my next conservative take. If you're unfamiliar with the way we do our movie reviews, then please click the link right here or in the description below, and that will explain everything. Also, be mindful that we will have a spoiler section, so if you don't want to be spoiled about this film, and we recommend you do in this particular case, because it's important for the election coming up, then skip over that by going to the chapters and going to the final take. So for the story, I'm going to give Vindicating Trump a 5. As you know, typically I give documentaries basically an even neutral score because there's not much to tell because it's simply just a narrative. And this one really could be actually below a 5, but I'm giving it the benefit of the doubt. Not much to talk about other than the narrative and timeline of Trump and how he's been attacked from the very beginning, ever since he came down those escalator stairs in Trump Tower back in 2016. And so this film is a reminder in many ways of how this man has been attacked, what he's done to cope and stay sane in this incredible life that he's had these past 8 years, and just how desperate the left is to take this man down, win an election, and impose their dominance of tyranny on our country. I give Dinesh credit because he does give a funny narrative on throughout, because he has very talented actors doing sketch comedy, portraying the roles of radical leftists inside the Democrat Party and how they're constantly being thwarted by Trump and what he's able to do to get through it and survive so far. For emotional impact, I'm going to give Vindicating Trump an 8. There are some scenes in here that I got a little emotional, not quite over the top. And I think Dinesh fell a little short in some areas to really play this up, but he didn't have to because he was preaching to the choir, and we're experiencing this in real time. We're in the middle of all of this. So I was reserved in my emotions only because the end of the story isn't told yet. Hopefully, November, we can have a much better picture when the election finally gets here and Trump actually, hopefully, does win. But I will tell you that there is a lot of anger in this film too, and there is some things in here that made me fearful. So shy of giving it a 9 or a 10, I think an 8 is pretty strong. But again, Dinesh could have pushed it a little bit further, but he didn't have to for me to make it worth watching and being entertained all throughout. So for intangibles, I'm going to give Vindicating Trump an 8. And primarily it's because of the sketch comedy skits that he does in this film. It's loaded full of funny bits about Democrats being totally frustrated about Trump and them trying to get him. And you have actors, particularly one who stole the movie outside of Trump's talking about the assassination attempt. That was pretty poignant. But by and large, this actor by the name of Siaka Massaquoi was just absolutely drop dead funny. Totally unexpected. The other cast of characters who played people with inside the DNC, people with inside polling and campaign areas, fit the complete narrative of what the deep state, what the political activists on the ground, the leftists who want to cheat, and all these things, the volunteers, what their thoughts and fears were and how they were so determined to stop Trump and assassinate him in many, many different ways. And so, yeah, that's one aspect of it. Also, intangibles, the direction, of course, Dinesh did a fantastic job. He does something really cool with the B-rolls. He finds official White House footage of Trump on the campaign trail, while he was in office, at the Lincoln Memorial, at Mount Rushmore. And this is high definition footage coming to us from the White House. And it's very well done. It's blended in with YouTube footage for like the assassination attempt and other things like riots and other things that we see on a daily basis that's not so cool to see, but it's visceral in many, many ways. So he blends it all together, and then he uses just generic B-roll in general that he brings in of patriotism, of people walking through cornfields or eagles flying through the air, and all cool effects showing us how beautiful this country is and contrasting it against this really, really scary message that he brings us. So again, Dinesh, as always, does a fantastic job there. The acting was great. The comedy was great. The direction was great. And the messaging was great, which is why I give it an 8, because there's a part that I'm going to talk about in the spoiler section that you just have to watch. It's not easy to watch. It's painful to watch. And it's scary to watch. But you need to watch it. So for the first time ever, I'm recommending that even if you don't see this film or want to see spoilers, I recommend watching the spoiler section just for this point alone. And for watchability, this is actually very easy to score. I'm giving it a 10 for the reasons I just mentioned. And I'll tell you a little bit more in my spoiler section, the conservative take. So for this film, I'm going to give it a 7, which is a good score. But if you compare it against other Dinesh films, I must say it does fall below some of those. And that's fine, because what's important here is this is an educational film. It shows you about what the left is trying to do, has tried to do, and more importantly, it's setting the narrative that Trump was right all along and that he is a kind of person who perseveres, who doesn't give up, and that is the inspiration for all of us. And so when we go into our spoiler section, which again, I recommend you watch that regardless of whether or not you like spoilers, because the spoilers that I'm going to mention in this spoiler section coming up is very important for this upcoming election because it involves integrity. And you should check it out. And what he presents in this film is absolutely mind-boggling and you won't believe it. So if you can't see the film, especially if you can't see the film, then watch my spoiler section coming up. So here we are in the conservative take spoiler section. And in here, I'm going to talk to you about the film and the things that you probably don't want to know if you're just coming into it and just not wanting to know too much and be spoiled. But again, you should stick around and watch this because it's important. The film starts off dealing with President Trump coming down the escalator in Trump Tower in New York and how the media was mocking him and how you had different people on the ground, the liberal political activist groups coming at him, laughing at him, the deep state wondering about him, wondering, well, can we make money off this guy? Or, do we have to, take him out? And as he goes through, they realize, look, this guy could be a problem. He's rich. He's not bought by anybody. He is already known by everybody. He's got a solid brand. He's popular. And so they thought early on that he could be a problem. And to them, he absolutely is. And so it goes through there and takes you all the way through the different ways that he's been attacked. And so I'm going to talk about the assassination attempt a little bit because this film is very, very up to date. I mean, that happened about 2 months ago of the recording of this film. Incredible. And it's all there. And President Trump is in the film being interviewed the whole time. And it is just really, really cool to see him talking to Dinesh, a guy who he pardoned and communed his sentence or whatever he did. He basically expunged his record of that trumped up charge that was put on him. Trump liberated him from that. And to see the gratitude in Dinesh's face in this film is just really, really, really heartwarming. But Trump does give his firsthand opinion of the attack, which is really good. And we get to see how desperate the media is. And we see how they will stop at anything. And now Dinesh puts us to 2024 election and what the Democrats will try and do to, let's say, since we're on YouTube, do some things they shouldn't do. And he showed people who he paid to go in undercover and try and do stuff like order ballots, order voting boxes, have it shipped to their house, how they can do what they call voter harvesting, where they go to homeless shelters and find people who are just signed up, or go to colleges where college students who are from out of state come into college automatically get registered to vote and then don't know that they're registered to vote in the state that they're in and go back and do absentee ballot for their home states. And meanwhile, that ballot that was registered automatically is taken up by a harvester. And it goes downhill from there. And so, so for us, it's very, very important to be diligent. And Lara Trump, who's in the film as well, tells us how it is important for us to keep our eyes open, to volunteer, to be poll workers, to be watchmen, to do whatever we can to make this election as free and fair as possible. But she did have some encouraging news here that her and the GOP are doing the necessary steps, working with other state attorney generals to get them to understand about voter rolls, purging those rolls, and tightening up election laws and bringing lawsuits to those who don't. So that's important to know. So when you watch this film, be mindful for that and get active, because this race in November coming up soon, in about 40 days of the taping of this particular video, it'll be here. All right, now, so for my final score of Vindicating Trump, it's going to be 14.75, which translates to 3 stars and an absolute go for this film. Now, this is rated PG-13, so please be mindful. It's got stock footage of YouTube videos. There's violence. There's all kinds of bad things they show on the screen. Not to mention there's some language issues there. So it's a PG-13 for a reason, but it does give some punch to the film, and it adds to the comedy of this film, and there's loads of it, and it's in jest, but you think in the back of your head, wow, there are people who are like this in smoky rooms or in campaign offices or on college campuses or lurking through ballot boxes in the middle of the night. It is what it is. We need to be prayerful of this election, be prayerful of Dinesh D'Souza, the entire Trump family, of course, Trump himself, for this country's sake, because this election is so important. And this film brings out those points beautifully as it compares Lincoln to Trump and the similarities there. And it's just, again, very well done. So good job, Dinesh. Everyone, check out this film. It's pretty awesome. So what are your thoughts? Are you planning on seeing Vindicating Trump? You should do so definitely before the election, because the whole point of this film is to highlight, well, the reason why it's so important that Trump win, and to also let everyone know what he's been through, because it is a timeline of the past 7.5 years of the things that he's been through, and it's almost unbearable to even think. And you forget many, many things of what this man had to go through. So it's also a tribute to him as well, and for us to persevere regardless of what happens, because if they're gonna come after him, they're gonna come after us too if we let them, and we can't let them.